you've been following the Brewstorm for a while now, you know that we're all about generating new ideas and inspiring our listeners to do the same. Oh, and we're also all about critiquing Dan's attire choices too. But here's the reality. Coming up with innovative ways to attract, engage, and delight your students is just freaking hard. And that's why the boys and I were pumped when we learned that Doubletake Promotional Marketing was going to sponsor the Brewstorm. Doubletake is not your run-of-the-mill promotional swag partner. They're your school's ideation partners who help augment your strategic marketing and enrollment plans with physical products like t-shirts, water bottles, yard banners, and more. Here are 3 reasons why we love Doubletake. Doubletake works closely with your team to understand your strategy for promotional marketing. They listen attentively to your goals and then recommend swag packages that align with them. Doubletake has developed turnkey, repeatable programs to help you reach your audience in compelling ways. Take their Combat Student Melt program, for instance, that has a slew of swag items specifically designed to keep deposited students excited about your school over the summer. And number 3, Doubletake gets higher ed. They are the premier brand merchandising agency for colleges and universities and understand the cyclical strategic nature of higher ed. So no need to explain the importance of increased yield rates to them. Discover how Doubletake can partner with you to ideate, design, and deliver exceptional promotional campaigns in conjunction with your marketing and recruitment strategies. Head on over to doubletakehighered.com to learn more. And tell Matt and the team there that Enrollify sent you their way. Again, that's doubletakehighered.com.
I have a hot take. A student needs to be like the focal point. I'm gonna get threats from faculty members. Oh, was that the podcast? Did you start the podcast?
Yeah. Just pass out mid-episode.
Man. Your daily slope.
All right, what are we chatting about, boys?
What are your
Dan,
socks?
did you come up with it? Oh, so you know how I texted you last night and said, I need to do laundry? This is what it looks like when I don't have any clothes.
Wait, but what are
These
they?
are coffee. They're coffee mugs.
Oh, okay.
But you know, like the brew, I actually wore them because I chose between these or my, I have like Orange Theory socks. And I felt like this was more appropriate for the Brewstorm.
Yeah.
Different kind of brew.
Yeah.
That's
True.
Always thinking about the brand. Always thinking about the pod.
That's good.
Did you come up with a topic this week, Dan? Remember last week you failed?
I read all the Slacks, and I know I have no responsibilities this time to come up with a topic.
Save us, Shane. What are we talking about today?
I think this is kind of like what we were chatting about before. So this layer,
video,
a little bit in the future, but no, with like cohorts and like enrolling in cohorts and paying for cohorts and what's paid versus what's free. So thinking about that in terms of schools and like marketing and showcasing themselves, what are things that schools should give away for free? Not obvious things.
Like not swag.
Not like, go give everybody a t-shirt that comes to an event. Not boring stuff like that. Like what are unique things that a school could give away? And it might be completely different based on like the school. So you might have an exact school in mind of like, they should give away this type of thing. And one of the things I was thinking about to kickstart it and steal maybe the best idea first, I was thinking they should give away a class for free. And I think we had talked about this before. I don't know if it was on this podcast or not before.
About this several times,
yeah. But I feel like, or even a class per major or something that's not a one-on-one class where it's like just kind of the high level, like basic intro to comm, intro to, American history, whatever, but one that's a little bit more in the weeds, where you can really see like, oh, this is how, this professor teaches. This is the way their class goes, like lecture style.
Pre-enrollment?
Yeah, you're saying it as like a marketing tool.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And
like
you're
a
using
legion
it as
tool.
like, over the summer or even like your senior at high school, you could just enroll in this course. You're kind of going at your own pace.
Yeah.
If you want, or you can like choose to opt into like the college style pace where you have class, let's say Tuesday, Thursdays, and you have to keep up with whatever. And you can take sample tests and do all this other stuff. And you're basically taking this course and potentially maybe could even get credit for it if you enroll at that university. So it's like incentivized
Like
to do it and take it seriously.
Yeah.
And you also get a real feel for like, this is what class will be like, this is what homework and tests will be like. So like that's one thing somebody could give out for free or a school could give out for free.
Yeah.
And maybe we want to stick and just run with that idea and like, what does that one thing look like done really well? or we could think about other things that they could give out for free that would really, just from a marketing standpoint, could be anything.
Yeah.
I love that idea. I also think that one of the things that is sort of related, but slightly different, and might be a little bit more cumbersome. Might be less cumbersome, because I think this idea is great. I think the problem with it, though, is that, I think there are schools that do this, like they do like sample course or whatever.
Right.
It's few and far between. But I think because from a marketer standpoint, the amount of approvals you have to get from institutional leadership and faculty to like put something like this together might be like too cumbersome. But a closely related idea that I think would be interesting is getting the head of the department or a key faculty member to do like an extensive interview with somebody on your marketing team. So like sitting down with Dan and talking with Dan, like a well-produced interview, like a well-produced, almost like a profile piece where it's like, I get to just pick Dan's brain. And it's someone on your marketing team, somebody who's a really good interviewer. And essentially I get to talk about you get to talk about what you're interested in, we get to talk about the program, but it's not like the candid, like, so tell us about this program. It's really just, Dan, you're a video guy. How did you fall in love with video? It's a little bit more story driven. And then it's like, so what is your philosophy of shooting, right? Or like, what is your, how do you approach editing? Walk us through soup to nuts. Like, what does your editing process look like? And then inadvertently, you end up as the consumer of this information, better understanding Dan, the professor, also the program, because of what he says his philosophy is, and he's the department chair, what have you. And then, you also just get to understand the personal side of the faculty member a little bit more. And the reason I think this could be interesting and is kind of what aligned with what you're saying is, maybe I'm just like a nerd, but have you ever like, has listening to a podcast with like an entrepreneur or like someone you respect, a business person you respect, has that ever influenced your affinity towards their brand or towards their products?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yes for you? Like, meaning,
no.
when you hear an interview with like an Elon Musk or whatever, do you grow an affinity for Tesla? Like, he's a bad example because he's so popular. But like when I first saw, let me think of something that's somebody who's not like an Elon Musk. Oh, the woman who started Spanx. What was her name? Shoot. Jeez, this is so embarrassing.
I literally just heard her name actually about like 15 minutes ago.
We have to look this up so people
this.
don't yell at us.
Yeah.
But when I first heard her story, I was like, not that I'm a Spanx user, but I was like, damn, this is a cool company.
How do you think Zach looks so good every episode?
And I remember even telling Gabby, I was like, do you, like, you should get, like, have you ever heard of, like, Spanx?
Yeah.
She's like, yes, I have, like, 3 pairs of them or whatever. Yeah. Spanx, this is so embarrassing. Spanx founder is Sarah Blakely. Sarah Blakely. Yes. Okay. Anyhow. Yeah. But I listened to a podcast. I was so moved by her story and how she thought about business and how she thought about product design, really. That I was like, damn, this girl knows what she's doing. This woman knows what she's doing.
I think again, we've talked about this before. I like video podcasts. Oh, your whole mic unplugged.
It's okay. Just go. Just keep talking. I just have my mic unplugged.
Make sure it's still recording.
Hello? Are we there? We're still there. Sorry, go ahead, Shane.
But thinking about like their, I don't know, personal brand, and I guess maybe their, not authority, but their influence on my purchasing decisions, not that it's necessarily their product. So I prefer when it's somebody I like listening to, and then they have ads for products in their video podcast. It's like I know they actually use these, and like I follow them on Instagram, I see them using it. I think a really good example, I think I brought this up once before, but like, Joe Rogan's a guy I feel like knows a lot about a lot, has some of the world's best people on his podcast across like every spectrum of everything. And I just like the way he interviews people, and I like to hear what that person has to say. And then occasionally I'll find somebody where I'm like, wow, that guy or that girl is just like awesome. Yeah. I'm going to go listen to more of their podcasts where they kind of say the same things, but it's just cool and unique. And then the things they either plug or the ads on the podcast that they're part of that are somehow tied to what they were. Like, he had a nutritionist on a couple weeks ago, and they were talking more about the Traeger grill, and I'd heard him talk about it before. And it was one of those things, like, so I ended up getting one And they're the best. And now I'm going to tell everybody, like, if they're going to get a grill and they're like willing to spend a little bit more on it, oh, it's so worth it. And it's so easy to use. It's the best.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that was one of those things where I was like, all right, I've become fascinated with this person, and therefore everything they say has a little bit more validity right off the bat than some brand new person being like, hey, here's why you should buy a Traeger, and they might give me 10 better reasons.
Yeah.
But I'm like, nah, but I don't know who you are and I don't trust you. So like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think of a parallel to like how a school could really leverage even a faculty member to, because like it's self-promotion at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And how you could.
I do feel like faculty members in general should just go on way more podcasts than they do.
Oh yeah.
Like they have like,
100%.
of course, like the top dogs are on shows.
Yeah.
But like, why is and I feel like they're on podcasts, like they're on like field specific or like super nerdy podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
But like, why not have your faculty member like go, like, you know Alex Lieberman from Morning Brew, and he does his like little what does he call
60
them?
second startup.
60 second startup.
Yeah.
And he does this like, it's like a TikTok series, and then it's
those are good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Where he like goes up to a random person and says like, pitch your startup to me in 60 seconds, right?
Yeah.
I feel like there's a way for faculty members to like get on like Alex, like how could you get your dean to talk to Alex Lieberman about something, or like somebody like that, where it's like they'd probably appreciate it because most of their audience are like they're not necessarily talking to they're barely talking to academics, right? Or or like the any business show or any even just like even Joe Rogan, I think is a little bit too high of a bar probably. But like, what does it look like for them to go into like mainstream media and have a longer form like interview about like their craft and like why they do what they do? And I feel like that kind of content could be that's totally worth gating. Like I guess maybe a podcast that they're on that somebody else hosts is a little bit hard, but like if you were to do the interview style, the longer form interview style, say like, hey, you want to get to really know what our biology department or psychology department is like. We did like profile, like long form interviews with 3 of our most, decorated faculty members. Submit your email here and watch the content, right? Like if you were a serious candidate for one of these programs, of course you're going to give your email address, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of content that could be used for lead gen, but also absolutely should be given away for free. It's also easy content to develop. It's so easy. And when's the last time you were, like, we look at schools' websites all the time. When was the last time you were on a school's website where you saw something like that? You probably see like a 3-minute, like little like faculty program overview or something like that. But in terms of long form, like interview style stuff, I don't see that ever.
Yeah. Especially like the highly produced, like really good quality.
Yeah, not shitty stuff. Like this is like you have to hire a video team.
Yeah. And I feel like too, talking about what makes you a good professor, like what separates you from anywhere else. And like trying to tease out, again, I think, and the impetus behind the original idea is like feeling like what it would be like to be taught by this person. Like if you're in a major, again, maybe not, you don't have them for every single course, obviously, but people in that department are probably pretty similar-ish. Like, here's roughly what you can expect if you were to enroll in this course as far as like a personality of a professor. If somebody does a 30-minute thing and it's just the most dry, boring thing you've ever heard, like, okay, that's gonna have a bearing on whether I choose to enroll at the university. Like, really, that's the person they profiled? Well, it probably doesn't get any better than this person. I'm out. Versus when you have somebody that's like super engaging and they're talking about their teaching style and it's something that aligns with the way that you want to learn, like whether you're a Socratic seminar person versus like put me in a 4-person lecture hall, I want to sleep in the back. Like, you can kind of hand select what you think is best for you. Also, I cut you off. I know you don't talk about
Well, I
don't want you to just brew on it for another 10-15 minutes.
I don't worry, I got it locked away in my brain. No, it kind of goes back to like almost first episode we did, we were talking about like what would be a good podcast that we'd like. How do you make a good podcast from like a school? And I wonder if like you do kind of combine these ideas into like, what if you had like some kind of actual like journalism person who is diving into like maybe doing like episodes on actual topics of like study that say a certain program is like a really cool experiment that's going on or something, and then being able to pick that out of rather than just like profiling people on like, oh, like how'd you get into biology or whatever, and then the person gives you their dry story of like how boring they got into, you know, going to school and going to more school and going to school again. Not just shit on school.
Speaking from personal experience much?
I think another thing though, but like with where I struggle with the school podcast, and this is I'm speaking strictly for myself, maybe other people feel differently. I don't know that I'd ever subscribe to a school's podcast as a prospective student, but I think then it requires really good episodes that are like super intentional and targeting a certain audience, and then you're pushing it out as much as you can to them. Like if your goal is to grow subscribers of the podcast of prospective students, that's pretty unlikely, especially if you're, you know, if you're grad, maybe there's a little bit more room for that, but undergrad, that's going to be tough.
True. What it reminds me of though is this there's this, do you know Science Versus? They're like a science podcast that just like do, I don't know, science shows. I think it's by Gimlet on Spotify, but they just like really deep dive into like one topic of like, is like anti-aging products, like, do they actually work? Or like, I don't know, some random like, you know, does drinking more water actually help you or something? Part of me thinks like, what if you did like a topic-based deep dive into something? Like, then you could interview like different people across a department. And then they're probably excited because they're like, let me tell you this crazy thing.
A little more
Mythbusters. So
style.
it's like, rather than, you know, tell me about you, it's like, tell me about the stuff that you're actually excited
did you
about.
know style.
Yeah.
That could be cool.
On that note, two follow-up ideas. One, around the podcast front of like why you would never subscribe to a school's podcast as a prospective student. I totally agree. However, let's say schools, and this could be a cool like shared marketing experiment where like you get schools in a regional area. Like let's take, we're right outside of DC, right? In Northern Virginia. You take a few schools in this area, you say, hey, we're all gonna get together, we're gonna all chip in, we're gonna hire somebody to produce a show for us. And what it's really gonna unpack is like, you know, education, not like education in Northern Virginia per se, but like let's talk to professionals in this region about a particular topic. Whether it's, hey, what do professors at JMU, I guess it's not really Northern Virginia, but let's just pretend it is, JMU, GMU, Mason, right? Maybe you go into DC, Georgetown. What do they think about this topic? And then what you could do is like, you'd have to find a way to make it regional. Maybe that's difficult. But like, I think I would, if I was interested in staying closer to home, and I knew that I was very likely to do that, I might be willing to subscribe to some sort of college admissions podcast that was going to give me profiles of like faculty that I could study from in this in this area, this geographic area. I feel like I would do that, whereas if it was just a general show from just George Mason, I would never subscribe. And then the second idea, what was the second idea? You were saying, what were you just saying? About, the Science Versus whatever. Oh, shoot. I totally forgot my second idea.
Mythbusters.
Mythbusters. Oh, damn it.
Probably wasn't very
all right,
good
keep
anyway.
talking. It was probably a terrible idea. It was probably a terrible idea.
Yeah, I feel like though that would definitely be, I think going in when you know it's run by a school or sponsored by a school or whatever, it's just like, all right, I'm getting the fluff. It's the same as anything else versus it's a little bit more topic based and it's like, this is, you know, Mason's response versus JMU's response.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a little bit more like contrast and compare. Obviously a school can't start that though. Like that's something I think
it'd have to be a third party.
But the school should be like, how do I get our faculty on there? Let me prep them, make sure like this is a marketing pitch. You need to crush this interview. If this goes poorly and people hear this, like we could look bad and they could base their decisions solely on your interview, really. And like that's a lot of pressure. But at the same time, if you know George Mason has somebody that is just crushing it on entrepreneurship, for example, and you know JMU has somebody that's like, they're not that interesting, but they're the only person they have, and it's just like, that wasn't great. Like that's kind of a knock for them. You know, they're probably close, you know, comparison-wise of academics to get in. But it's a little different if like, you know, community college is competing with UVA. It's slightly different, but I feel like people generally have a good sense. At least I feel like all of my friends, it was a little bit more, and Virginia's, maybe this is true in most states, but it's more of like, okay, I'm going into X program. Like, I'm either trying to get into UVA as my reach.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech's maybe my, like, I'll probably get in there.
Yeah.
Should be good. JMU is going to be like
My safety.
my safety-ish type school.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, I'll go to community college for 2 years and then I'll try and get into UVA or something. And you kind of already have that mapped out in your head pretty early on.
Yeah.
But then being able to like kind of weigh and be like, oh, well, I don't know. Maybe, JMU is a better option for me, even though Virginia Tech might have a better program or school.
Yeah.
You're going to enjoy JMU more. You're going to learn more. At the end of the day, it's like your GPA in college, I'm convinced. I could have told people I had a 4.0 forever and nobody would have fact checked me once. And it's just like, who cares? Where are you going to learn the most and enjoy it so that you can, replicate that in the real world?
Depends a little bit on, if you want to go to grad school and stuff like that. But
yeah,
if you want to go right into the working force, it's a little bit different. I remember my thing, my idea. So, thinking about, the Teach Me How to Dougie song. What if there was like a...
You crushed that verse, by the way.
There probably is like something like this already, but it's like, what if you did like Teach Me How to Study or something like this? It was the name of the thing, right?
Yeah.
And what if you did this? Here, like kind of like Mythbusters-esque, where you go and you go to a faculty member and you'd have to find like an all-star student to do this, or maybe even like you hire like a media company to do this for you. I don't know. And you go to different faculty members like, teach me this concept, right? Getting back to your initial idea of like the giving away a course for free, right? Which I do think is incredibly valuable, and more schools should do that. I don't know why not enough, like too many schools like don't.
It's a lot of hoops to get through, but
it is. But like it should be way easier. Even if it's an online course, you should be able to take an online course on anything. The first course for free, 100%. But what if it was like, all right, you're going to different faculty members and you're like, hey, you're a faculty member in the psychology department. I want you to teach me something. And then I want you to I want to be able to somehow validate that I've learned it. Right? So it's almost like this, like, all right, teach me this like crazy thing about like how humans respond to this kind of this kind of information or whatever. And it's some weird like, look at all these colors and then tell me how, they make you feel or whatever. And then at the end there's some sort of like evaluation way for me to prove to you that I learned something. And then I can like, whoa, like who knew? Like who knew like this? And like I retained it. Like I got it, right? Yeah. If you could do some sort of content series like that, where you go to different professors, have them teach you something that you can learn in like 30 minutes, and then be evaluated on, and it's a 45-minute episode or whatever. Something like that would be super interesting.
Yeah.
As not even just Legion, just to grow the brand of your professors in your school.
I mean, that's how you maximize the course, is you make, a YouTube video for macro level concepts of course and have your professor explain it in a cool, fun, dynamic way of like, video, here's how we color grade. And like, here's the best way to do it using, the newest Final Cut or using Adobe Premiere or like whatever. Here it is. And like, you go do it and how many people Google that who have no intention of going to college or whatever, but you're getting your views up and you're building traction, and then you're playing more of like the volume game and you'll get some trickle in. But it's like you're already doing it. Just like tape it, just videotape it, nice, and then just throw it online. Like it can't be that hard. And then I feel like that's pretty applicable across most concepts for most majors. It's not like, oh no, you have to be here. There's obviously your lab courses and things like that. You kind of have to like be in person and do it yourself. But even then, it's just like somebody else does it. And you just watch how it happens, and
that's it.
Can get like, it's like the micro credential. It's just like.
It's like if you made what if you made like a competitor to like Khan Academy or like
exactly
like something
like a niche Khan Academy.
Yeah, like a HubSpot Academy style like just database of like short little videos that are like, they don't even have to be like super well done, as long as they're like short, to the point, and like easy, like explained well. I feel like you could honestly get a pretty good reputation.
I went to a liberal arts college. It would have been great to be able to be like, hey, watch this history video, take this test, and then you can opt out of your history elective. I say it's less money for the school, so it's not super attractive to them, but I remember going to those classes and just being like, this is such a waste of time.
Yeah.
But
man,
personal experience.
Yeah, but I feel like in terms of like content that schools can give away for free, it's like any product, right? Or like any SaaS company. Like when you go to buy software, most software today lets you do some sort of free trial where you get to go in to their ecosystem and test it out and build your email, right? You might not be able to send the email, but you can build the email, right? And I think that like schools need to think about that. Schools need to think very critically about what's like the freemium model of things that we can offer. I do think it should be mostly content based. Figuring out a way to unpackage some of your coursework to be a little bit more accessible is sort of an easy win because it's already there.
Right.
You might need to record an interview. You might need to package it a little bit differently, but it exists, right? And I think that schools need to think more critically about how do we become SaaS companies with respect to our marketing and promotional tactics.
I think it's flipping the interpretation of marketing of like, I feel like it's very, give me your information and then I'll give you value. And instead like, here's value. Give us your information if you're curious. Like, and I think higher ed's still into like, give me your information first, then I'll give you some value. And I think that's just the wrong way to think about it. I think a lot of other more progressive marketing companies are like, put everything out for free and again, play that volume game and then hope that you land business. And when you do get leads, like they're so qualified too, the nurturing process is easier. Like you're spending less time on calls, but you're closing more deals because you're, speaking to people that are already well informed of what you're offering basically versus like, the people that are like, hey, what's your financial aid information? And they're like, it's on the website. Why are we having this call? And they're like, oh, whoops. And it's just, you're wasting time. And so how do you give away as much value as possible, again, without undermining the importance of, an education.
And I feel like brand marketing and content marketing done really well and really strategically. That does. Sorry, I just spilled some beer on Dan's pants. That does yield higher quality leads. If done well, that will that will yield higher quality leads. And I do feel like that's the future. Like that is the only way. Schools are losing staff, schools are losing resources left and right. They have to do more with fewer people, and the only way to do that well is to have an incredibly solid, incredibly strategic brand and content marketing strategy that allows for fewer people, right? Fewer leads, but significantly greater quality leads. All right, gentlemen.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Woo!
We don't do that many cheers as a.
We should.
I think that was our first cheers, wasn't it?
It was.
We've never done one before.
I think we
should always close that way.
Yeah. Or we should open that. I don't know.
That was good. Honestly. I'm going to do the porky the pig. That's all, folks.
All right, we good?